Yes, a warm welcome to another episode of the National Agenda, and today we are discussing the 2025 WASSCE results. We understand that the West Africa Examination Council released the WASSCE results a couple of months ago, or a month ago, and we've seen issues come up as a result of that. And so, by way of introducing today's episode to you, let me also make you understand that I have a special guest in the studio, a regular, and he's on set today because my viewers requested. So by popular request, my guest, I'm informing you that the viewers asked that we bring you back to the show one more time because they really admired your way of analysis on issues that we discuss on the show. So viewers, like I asked you to do all the time, today I have brought back your guest. So let me quickly introduce him, and then we'll move on to the matter that is up for discussion. So I have in the studios with me Nazil Said. Yes, and he will do his best to help us delve deep into the matter on the table, which is the 2025 WASSCE result. But before we go into the matter up for discussion, let's have a look at this video.
I have a particular example of just those who wrote. You know, a student that came in from BEC with aggregate 14, who couldn't write her name.
Wow.
Yes. I mean, those who just finished, who could not write her name. And she had 14. I was there when the economics teacher brought me her exam paper. And when he came in with the academic assistant, I was like, this was a problem. So I thought there's something serious. My face was like, they came, madam, this one, we can't solve it. So they handed over the paper to me. Scribble. She had scribbled. I mean, she can't write a single sentence.
Wow.
Correct. But she had aggregate 14. When we had delved into it, according to the teacher wrote it for her. Of course, she couldn't have written that herself. Because, I mean, Apo, you should have come in with something. That somebody adds on, then you produce whatever. But with this kind of performance, somebody who cannot even write her name correctly, it meant that it was written for her. And she confessed that she made her name, Teacher Techi. You know, and I'd always wanted to really follow her, but couldn't have the time. But that was serious.
Yes. So you just saw in the video, that was the Ahantaman Girls Senior High School headmistress, Miss Kankam. It's a bit worrying that, you know, such a thing is happening. I mean, for somebody to score an aggregate 14, to be in a high school, and only to get there, and when exams is happening, this person fails or is unable to even write her name. It's worrying.
Very worrying.
Yeah, it's very, very, very worrying. Very, very worrying. And Nazil, let me come straight to you. What are your initial thoughts? We just had a look at the video. Well, how would you respond to all that is happening?
All right, thank you very much, Ophobi. As I do always, I'll send out greetings to the over 35 million well-meaning Ghanaians. And today, to be precise, to the over 470,000 candidates who sat for the West African examinations.
Certainly.
Ophobi, for years now, and a lot of people have run commentary on the way and manner the free SHS policy has been run. I mean, time and again, we were bombarded with results that looked very blossoming, and many people attributed it to the advancement in our education. However, there were a lot of criticisms that came with some of the results that were being panned out, to the extent that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama in 2022-2023 questioned the integrity of the results that were being churned out. It seemed as if a school of thought held a posture that some results were being concocted in one way or the other. I mean, many of us have witnessed firsthand the transition of this free senior high school, and we have seen how it has emerged over the years. Since 2017, there's been a lot of criticisms, even about the learner-student hours, the number of time, hours they are spending in school, how short the term has become now because of double track system. So there's been a lot of holistic criticisms that comes along with the establishment of free SHS. One would have thought that their performance would resonate with the poor systems that were identified in the free SHS policy.
So if you say poor systems, what are some of the things that, for instance, were identified in times past that we know that the incumbent government, who was then in opposition, spoke against?
So, Phoebe, one of the very common things was the quality of feeding that was happening on the campuses. And if students are not being fed properly, it can tell you that they are not in the best of moods to be on top of issues when it comes to the academic matters. We mentioned about the double track system, the gold, green track system, where students were spending a maximum of 4 months in school and they come home and spend a maximum of about 4 months again in their homes. It was cutting down on the contact time between their teachers, and it was evidence that the numbers were ballooning. At a particular point in time, a school that was admitting about 400 students was now supposed to be admitting over 1,000 students.
But Nazir, we can't also take it away from the free SHS policy and the double tracking system. The fact that it gave room for more people to have access to education.
Very well, very well. I mean, as I've always maintained, free SHS policy is the best social intervention we've had with regards to Ghanaian education. So nobody can take it away that giving access to secondary education is the way to go. FQ did with basic education. Free SHS is also very good with secondary education. But you remember very well that President Mahama said that this policy has to be timely. It has to be implemented properly, such that it has to follow a particular structure. We improve our infrastructure. We improve the quality of food. If you have done all of these fundamentals, pushing in the numbers will be very comfortable. That we have a lot of senior high schools across. These senior high schools, A category A schools, are going to be bombarded, obviously. Are you increasing the number of boarding houses they have? If you put in all of these, they have classroom blocks in essence. That is when you can bombard them with huge numbers and make them be able to accept the number and accumulate them accordingly in the academic system.
So let me just ask, did the previous government not look at all these things before they went on to implement the policy?
I mean, I'll take you back to the very, very well-quoted statement of His Excellency, the former president, that the free SHS policy being implemented in 2017 was on the back of a whimsical promise of a desperate politician. And they had no option but to implement it because it was their flagship policy and it had to be implemented. And as a matter of fact, it had to be implemented. Because you can't implement a policy.
On that grounds, can we also not say that by way of ensuring that they have met what we call the social contract to Ghanaians, they had implemented that policy? Because
it's very fair.
They owed the average Ghanaian
that promise.
That promise.
It is very fair. But in the course of doing that, you disadvantage a particular set of individuals of the quality of education they were supposed to get. And that is a disadvantage many have cried. That if you are not careful, we will churn out numbers, quantity but not quality.
Okay.
And that is a big disservice we'll be doing to the average Ghanaian youth who will pass through the system. Because you can't bombard students in a classroom where the teacher-to-student ratio is not met in the classroom. It's actually overwhelmed in a particular classroom. Tutors are not having time for learners because the ratio is ballooning. We were doing 30 to a teacher. Now we are doing 60 to a teacher. We're doing 50 to a teacher.
So it is very clear that there was a teacher to student ratio deficit.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of graduate teachers who are sitting in their homes and have not been assigned to certain institutions. So what happened? How is it that
This is where the characteristics do not match up. So there are 30 units of classroom. There are 30 units classroom blocks on a particular campus, maybe 10 classrooms on each of the blocks. That would be 300. You cannot have an excess number of teachers who cannot man or match up the classes hours in a particular institution. So in the whole day, you have about 5 different subjects you are going to study. And you have teachers for all of these subjects. In every classroom, there are teachers for these subjects. But they are not excess classrooms. So for instance, in our high schools, we had A1 to, let's say, A8 or A7 or A5. In the existence of free SHS, normally it should have gone to maybe A10, A15. But in the absence of the number of facilities to accommodate these students, A1, which was probably taking a number of 50 students, was now ballooning to 100 students.
Okay.
Or are we expecting that our students were going to usurp trees or were sit under trees? Or we should have turned our dormitories into classrooms?
But I know on record that His Excellency the President, John Dramani Mahama, in his first term as president, built a certain E-blocks.
Yeah, community day schools.
Exactly.
Many of which were inculcated in the system. I know of Parkoso, a lot of them were also involved in the free SHS policy.
And that was
However,
not enough?
there's still a very big deficit because there was over 30 or 40% influx of students in the average enrollment that we had in senior high school. Over the period, the report showed that there were over 3 million students who have benefited over the period with regards to the policy. So it should tell you that the numbers really ballooned. And as a matter of fact, the infrastructural deficit that we were suffering as a country contributed significantly on reducing the contact hours and hence the double track system, which made the students, as many have said, stay home more than be on campus.
All right,
so this and many more are the reasons that ate into the quality of the policy,
the policy
and hence has had a ripple effect.
Okay, so then if I'm getting you right, what it means is that these are the factors that has led us to what we are experiencing
this
now.
And many more, yeah.
Okay, because I am tempted to ask, it looks as though this is the worst performance in over 6 years.
Yeah.
And if let's check out what the numbers are saying with regards to the passes. So for instance, for the sake of our viewers to also appreciate what we are talking about, in terms of performance overview, core mathematics, for instance, and I'm doing this analysis with respect to last year's results.
Yeah.
And you realize that only 48.7% of candidates attained grades A1 to C6. And this is a drop because last year we had 66.86% attaining grades A1 to C6. So this is a significant drop. We go to social studies, performance also dropped to about 55.82% as against 71.53% in 2024. Now, on English language, we have 69% of candidates passing with A1 to C6, which is also a significant drop. We have not seen so much of a change. Now, for integrated science, we've seen 57.74% of candidates passing with A1 to C6. And this raises a lot of eyebrows and a lot of questioning. Now, I'm worried. The point is that why is it that mathematics, for instance, has become a major problem in our schools?
All right, so Phoebe, I'll just refer you to the chief examiner's report with regards to mathematics. So with mathematics, many of the things that the chief examiner identified being their problem has been listed here. He mentioned one that they struggled with diagrams. There were difficulty with the diagrams.
Like the Venn diagrams, we know.
Also, cumulative frequency, they struggled with cumulative frequency, real-life application of problems, and translating the word problems, which is an age-old problem in regards to understanding the question there, grammatical parts of the mathematics that we solve. This has been the difficulty that he identified this year. But let's put all of it together. Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asari's Africa Education Watch has done a very in-depth survey by engaging the teachers across the length and breadth of the country. Over 6,000 teachers have responded to the survey, and they've listed a couple of their top 4 reasons why they felt that the performance this year was not the best as the years past have seen. So the first and foremost that all the teachers are mentioning was the fact that there was strict invigilation this year. They mentioned that the Honorable Minister for Education, Honorable Haruna Idris Aduna, was very strict with them, and he didn't mince words when he met them and told them point blank that any teacher who is caught meddling in any form of cheating is going home straight away.
So if I may ask, just on the point I just made, does it mean that in times past, because teachers and invigilators were reluctant, were a bit loosed up when it comes to invigilation, it gave room for people to copy?
In the past, teachers were even extorting monies from these candidates to support them.
Really?
Right?
And do we have numbers?
This year, Honorable Minister has interdicted a headmaster, and I think a teacher is being investigated for that, as taking monies from these learners. And because of the strict systems that the minister put in place, failed to deliver, and there was a whistleblower.
I mean, the video we watched even before we started clearly indicates that even down to the basic education certificate exams level,
examination.
Yes, teachers are writing exams for candidates, and it doesn't look good for us as a country. And that is why I asked you that, how is it that now that we are implementing some strict measures to see that our education system becomes better, the result is beginning to turn out to be bad?
So it should tell you, if I go, by the time I'm done going through the entire four
take us
main
through
thematic
quickly.
areas. I think we'll have a fair understanding of
Okay.
where some of these are coming from. So the first one they mentioned was strict invigilation. Second was the poor student preparation. Because I mean, if I am a student in these high schools and I know that my teachers over the years have been supporting my seniors, I'll be reluctant to prepare. I'll just wait, come and sit down and make sure that I'm ready with my pens. And I know my teachers will come and help me. But because of the intervention of the minister and who kept re-echoing that teachers should be very careful, whoever is found will be culpable of the charges leveled against him. They were very careful. This year, there were no questions and answer leakages.
Okay.
Yeah. In the past years,
this is something of the past, and I must commend the WAIC, for instance, and the Ministry of Education for this, because in past years, you would see that happening. At least probable questions, if not leaked questions.
Mr. Kofi Asare himself mentioned that as a key stakeholder and a CSO in education, over the years, to be very certain of what is going on, he himself was looking for loopholes and buying questions for people who were around and brandishing themselves as people who were selling questions. And indeed, the questions that he would brandish himself and get were the same questions that were being presented in the exams hall. So over the years, he stands as a testament to confirm that indeed, over the past years, questions were leaking and he himself was even getting some of these questions. Wow. I mean, over the years, you just be on a platform and you see a long list of questions being put there. Oh, if you have sisters, send it to them. Yeah. That was the practice that was going on. And this year, they mentioned that there was no leakages whatsoever. Essentially, once again, was from the student perspective. They mentioned that the questions were difficult. I mean, it has already been established that you failed to prepare. How would the questions not be difficult for you? Because
your colleagues passed. So yes. What happened to those that passed?
Some of you failing to prepare was where that difficulty came from. And when you put all of these together, some of the undertones that they mentioned was the indiscipline in our high schools.
Certainly.
Absenteeism.
Certainly.
And the last thing that pisses me off is the automatic promotion of students. It will baffle a lot of Ghanaians to know that under the free SHS terrain, a student is not repeated on campus. Wow. All because of the resource constraint in our various campuses. Wow. Because if you repeat the students, it becomes a burden of the state. Because all the fees of the learner is being catered for by the state.
So then it becomes like a double jeopardy.
We're already running a double track system. We do not have space to accommodate you. So no matter how good or bad you are there for 3 years and you are leaving. You'll be prepared for worse. I mean, gone are the days where the things that used to frighten some of our colleagues who were not apt in academics were the fact that they were going to be repeated.
In fact, you have to take mocks, and if you don't do well, you'll not be allowed to sit in the
red
WASSCE.
Lines and what have you.
Exactly.
But if I am sure that I'm coming to school for a 3-year period, there's no form of repetition. How do I sit up and study? So the case of Ahantaman girls, where the headmistress complains, this student who keeps scribbling on exam papers is not even able to spell out her name.
And that is...
We'll go through the system for 3 years and will be put before the WAEC council to partake in the WASSCE examinations. And what do we expect this learner to put in there if the teachers are not going to support? Because in her mind, writing this WAEC examination at the basic level, that's a BEC, she was supported. And she confessed to the headmistress that indeed her teacher, the name which I would withhold,
the teacher mentioned it.
She mentioned, which the headmistress also reiterated. The teacher so and so wrote my paper for me. And it led up to her coming to Ahantaman Girls, one of the best girls in high school we have in the country. And she's there for a period of 3 years. She won't be able to write, and she'll be filed before the WAEC examinations. And in her own best understanding, a common practice that had been done, that the teacher writes for her, and she'll be expecting another teacher to write for her. But I'm sorry to tell her that in this time, under the tutelage of Honorable Haruna Idriso, that cannot happen. So she may as well sit up and get some extra classes for herself.
Well, so on the issue of discipline, I have chanced on a number of videos on social media. And I've seen, for instance, during the time that these final years senior high school students were preparing for exams, we've seen young ladies, young girls, if I should say, speak without even feeling shy that they were going to take husbands of our mothers, and they would, the things they said. And these things are things that in times past you hardly see a high school student do. I mean, pick a phone just when you are preparing for exams and you are doing all these things. So one would have expected that they would be brilliant students, but to have these results, then the question about discipline comes in. how then do we allow these young ladies, these young students to do what they are doing on social media? I saw one that was working with a boyfriend and said that, like, they were Okodino, that kind of vibe. And you're like, hold on. And that's no form of shyness. She was in her school uniform. It looks as though she was picked from campus. And nothing was done about it. We sat aloof.
That is how unfortunate and deranged our school system is getting. I mean, I wouldn't shy away from the fact that even during our time, during our days, these kind of social vices on campus were still inherent. They were very much present. But the upsurge we have seen post the implementation of the free senior high school policy, because I mean, even if there were 2 people doing it in my year, and we had a total student population of 500, now we have a total student population of 1,000. So twice the outliers you're going to find in the batch. So indeed, people are very reluctant. And they have no academic requirements. If I'm not being repeated in school, hell, I'm not studying. If I go back to high school today, and you tell me I'm not going to be repeated, as the average student that I am,
why should I study?
I will backtrack again and I'll be sleeping more. Because even the disciplinary sanctions and what have you that you can impose on me,
they don't exist anymore.
Not in existence currently.
Because gone are the days, I mean, we had to weed. Our house masters would throw stones and they'll ask you to weed for not showing up at prep to study. Even for missing dining. If you're a boarding house student or a boarder and you fail to even go and eat for your own self, your teachers would punish you. So it tells you the kind of system we had.
We're fighting our teachers. We're fighting our form masters over continuous assessment. You lose 1 mark and you're chasing your teacher.
Exactly.
Because you know that these marks need to tally up for you to get a better position.
Because at the end of the academic year, they will perm all that together and then they will cut some people off.
Cut some people away. And people under the red line will face the PTA. Your parents will come and visit the academic board. So all of these restrictions and regulations were putting us on our toes. But if now you're telling me 3 years, I'm just coming to pass through, alhamdulillah, I'll just come and I'll walk through the campus.
There's another thing that really interests me and I want us to look at it. And for the sake of our viewers and appreciating whatever we are doing or we are talking about, you see, it's about the sanctions and the issue of integrity. Like you mentioned that we have not seen any form of leakage this year, but it will interest you to know that results were cancelled.
Yeah.
And as a result of cheating. So we realized that about 6,295 candidates had their subject results cancelled for bringing in foreign materials to the exams hall.
Yeah.
And then again, we have about 653 candidates. For them, their entire WASSCE they wrote was cancelled. And I find it a bit problematic. And then we also have 908 subject results and about 158 entire results were withheld and suspended. So as it stands now, about 900 students have not received their results because it's been withheld. And then we've seen cancellations. I mean, these are things that, yes, it's been happening in times past, but in this day and age, we still have these issues happening. Could it be as a result of stricter measures put in place or something else is happening?
So over the years, WASSCE has had its own institutionalized mechanism for checking on cheating, with checking on patterns of answers and what have you. They have their own mechanization that they work with. But as I mentioned, this year, the upsurge in strict supervision, the numbers of external invigilators and supervisors also saw an increase. So as a matter of fact, it had a ripple effect on the number of institutions that were caught cheating or engaging in cheating, number of students that were caught in different forms of malpractices. Because immediately you are increasing the restrictions, you are increasing and putting in place tighter regulations.
Certainly.
You are going to be more aggressive and clamp down on a lot of irregularities. So I'm sure that is what happened. Currently, I'm still in talks with a couple of candidates who are complaining about their results being withheld and what have you. The only disadvantage with WASSCE and withholding results is many a times the investigations, the ones that are being withheld, are being investigated. A lot of times the investigations do not happen so early, such that these candidates who are waiting for the results to pursue tertiary education are disadvantaged. So the only
there's an example. There's someone I know. The result was withheld for more than 4 years and nothing came out of it.
That's
so
disappointing.
she had to re-enroll And it took us a lot to
That's
get this
disappointing.
lady to psychologically get back to
See,
school,
see.
you know? Yeah.
So it's very unfortunate. So a lot of times we activists and advocates, the only level of pressure we mount on WASSCE with regards to these release results are to conduct their investigations as quickly as possible and let them know either they are being cancelled or they are going to release these withheld results to enable them, these candidates, have a fair understanding in their minds and clarity the way forward. So I mean, as I mentioned, the stricter the invigilation, the stricter the restrictions, the more anomalies that are going to be identified. So it has.
All right. So, Nazo, thank you so much for that. But what are we doing as leaders to see to it that this issue becomes a thing of the past? Because we understand that we write this kind of exams with other West African countries.
Yeah.
So if we're performing this way, it doesn't speak well for us as a country. Yeah. So what are we doing? What is the government doing?
It is unfortunate that amongst the 3 or 4 Anglophone West African countries that write these WASSCE examinations annually, year after year, we get candidates from Ghana topping the entire chart in West Africa.
It doesn't look like it will happen this year.
This year, I mean, there are still some good heads that will still start for the exam, so we still have a good chance in clamping some of these awards. In times past, we've even chopped 1st to 4th position, all being Ghanaians awards. So we are expecting that some of these come out very good. I mean, if we are tightening our restrictions, there's also going to be a counter approach because the president under the Ministry of Education has also directed the Ministry of Education to put in some reforms when it comes to the free senior high school policy and the curriculum as well. So the entire policy has been reviewed just as was reported, and they are going to make comprehensive additions to the entire structure. I mean, now we've seen the additions with the food, we've seen additions with regards to curriculum. So eventually, just as Honorable Minister Aduna Haruna Idrisu mentioned, in the coming year, we are going to see by 2027, the double track system will completely fade out. Infrastructures are going to be boosted, and as a matter of fact, we are going to have a number of the proper ratio, the students learner ratio is going to be in the proper shape. When all of these are put into the right perspective.
So hold on, are we going to see an enrollment of the trained teachers who are seated at home and
the minister
because if we are going to have reforms, then we should see them go back to teaching.
The minister has already intimated that next year they are going to enroll about 16,000.
And do we have the facilities to accommodate all
so he has mentioned that they are going to enroll. I mean, some are going on pension, some are losing their lives. So eventually,
do people really go on pension in this country?
Oh yeah, people do. And there's a deficit as well. So it's all about clearance. Anytime they have to reimburse that, and they are going to reimburse the numbers. However, even the minister has also mentioned that there's received some grants to transition some Category B schools into Category A and some Category C schools into Category B. As part of that, there's going to be huge infrastructural improvement. And as a matter of fact, an investment in infrastructure will also open the campuses up for more staff to combat the issues of the poor student and learner ratio on our campuses. That will have a ripple effect on their performance, because if students are going to have much class time, a cancellation or an end to the double track system, all of that put together is going to improve our systems for us. And as we mentioned, that the underpreparedness of many of these learners. Now, the minister has made it clear, regardless of the public outcry that comes, it is not his responsibility, it's not his to write the exams for the learners. So he's going to put in place every measure to make sure that he curtails that era of cheating, examination leakages, and malpractices. So every student in every campus across the length and breadth of the country has a clear conviction that last year there was no leakage. Last year, invigilation was strict. It's going to happen again when I write.
So we need to study.
I'll sit up and study.
But then who prepares? Whose responsibility is it to prepare the candidate for the
our tutors in the various campuses?
And are they motivated enough to do that?
I mean, one of the issues that they raised in the survey with African Education Watch was that they are under motivation of teachers. And that is quite relative, because if our salaries and allowances are being paid, I do not know where the under motivation is coming from. However, I'm sure they are receiving capitation grants from the basic level. And so I do not know where the under motivation is coming from, but I'm sure this government, under the hand of the Minister for Education, Honorable Idris, is going to do an extraordinary work in motivating our teachers to man up and also help these candidates to pass the exams as well.
Certainly. We hope and pray that these policies that, the Honorable Minister is putting in place will go a long way to see to where that failure in WASSCE, for instance, and other educational reforms will become a thing that will manifest, and failure will be a thing of the past. So thank you so much, Nazil, for coming on the show today. My viewers will be happy because this was a popular request that we get you back to the studio and we discuss this pressing issue. And then again, there is a probability that this is just a teaser to the viewers out there. We may come back again and have a discussion, like a second edition of the discussion we had on the Wesley Girls Senior High School issue. Yeah. We understand that people are keenly interested. They are following all that is happening. So we'll come back to that someday in another episode. So thank you so much. Anyway, viewers, you've heard from my guest in the studio today, and we must appreciate you for also sticking and staying with us. But right now, what we're asking from you is that you follow us on all our social media handles. So you can find us on YouTube, The National Agenda, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, The National Agenda. Please continue to comment, continue to share, so that your friends who have not heard of us, your friends who did not follow what we spoke about, would hear of whatever we have discussed. And like I always say, share your comment. Let's get interactive. And one of these days, whatever you say will be aired on the show. Thank you for sticking and staying with us. My name is Samuel Fobi Banfo, and this has been The National Agenda. See you in another episode.